everyone, and welcome to the Creative Knit-Ensions podcast, a spinning, weaving, knitting, crochet, quilting, sewing, generally crafty goodness kind of podcast. My name is Tanya. I'm coming to you from New York City, and I'll be your host today. I really do appreciate you guys joining us for what is now our third episode. I know there are so many great podcasts out there. There are literally probably dozens, if not hundreds, and I know I keep shrugging and that probably seems really awkward, but I'm just really grateful that you guys would hopefully sit with some of your knitting and maybe a cup of tea or coffee or caffeine in my case and enjoy listening to a little bit of what I've been doing, some things that I've been working on, and all that good stuff. And so, like I said, I really appreciate it. So let's jump right on in. Since I had spoken to you guys last, I actually have finished my Mulberry Street pullover. Yay! It is inside out. And also, as we had spoken about last time, I don't weave in ends. I guess I shouldn't say I never weave in ends, but I don't reliably weave in ends, and so there are ends everywhere in this project. But here it is. This is actually what the back view of the pullover looks like. So this is the keyhole. Or actually, no. This is the front of the sweater. And this is the back. So that's what the keyhole looks like. This sweater is from the Rhinebeck Sweater book by Melissa Worley, or rather the pattern is by Melissa Worley. The Rhinebeck Sweater book is, as we had spoken about last time, is a book that I'm just obsessed with, guys. It's a work that Yisolda Teague put together, and whether or not you're a sweater knitter or you want to be a sweater knitter, it's a wonderful resource for anyone who just wants to learn a little bit more about this this culture that we're a part of. You know, there's a lot of information on sheep and wool festivals. Rhinebeck obviously plays a big part in the Rhinebeck Sweater book. There's a lot of information in there about various indie dyers. So, you know, some of my favorites like Miss Babs or oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of Jill Draper. I was just going to say, I'm trying to remember the name of the woman who does the big balls, the Empire scans. But that is Jill Draper. And just a lot of other information like that to get a really, truly hands-on experience. So that whether or not you've been to Rhinebeck, you can feel the energy. I mean, I've been there a couple of times now over the years, and I don't know, every time I flip through the book, I can almost feel myself eating an apple cider donut and standing on a far too cold hill covered in leaves that have just freshly fallen, and hear the laughter of children as they're petting their first or their second or their third sheep. And it's just a really warm experience, and that comes through really well in the book. And so, again, I highly recommend it. Do apologize for the little bit of a segue, but my Mulberry Street pullover was made using 2 yarns by Nerd Girl. So the base, this silvery gray that you can see, is in the Institute of the Arts colorway on the Parlay base. And Parlay is, it's a very lightweight base. It's about 60% wool, 40% bamboo, tencel, something like that. It's cool to the touch, and that's such a strange thing to say when you're talking about yarn, and especially like a desirable aspect of yarn, but it's such a delight to work with. And even without the keyhole, I feel like there's still more than enough kind of ventilation in this sweater. The lace weight that is paired with this sweater that gives the little bit of those purple flecks, those yellow flecks, is in another Nerd Girl base called Woot, and the colorway is Zelda. Overall, I really enjoyed knitting the pattern. The textured stitch isn't complicated at all. It's one of those stitch patterns that when you see other people do, you're like, oh my gosh, it's stunning. I can never do that. It's too complicated. But it's really not. It's really a quite simple, deceptively simple little stitch pattern. I did have a little bit of issues with the sweater, however. Primarily in that simple little, deceptively little simple stitch pattern. At one point, in order to construct this keyhole for a portion of the pattern, you actually work flat. And so instead of working in the round, which was nice and simple and almost cathartic because I was sick of the time and you could just go and go and go and go and go, and you have to work flat. I found it a good challenge to identify the pattern when I was on the wrong side. So that was a bit of a struggle for me. But overall, I'm really happy with the sweater. I am not currently wearing it for 2 reasons. The first being the keyhole. So I love the keyhole. I love the idea of the keyhole. I will wear this. But once I've modified it a bit, this keyhole is way too loose. It's too baggy. And so I don't really feel comfortable wearing it, even with something under it almost. And this beautiful boat neck, which I really love the boat neck. You can probably even see kind of once I just put it up against me, the boat neck is far too boaty. So to fix that, I will probably pull out my sewing machine. I will invert my sweater, have the right sides facing, and probably just sew maybe about 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches to make it a little bit of a tighter boat neck. Maybe more like this. Yeah, I think that'll work for me. And I think this is a sweater I can wear now. It is March 28th. I just came home from work a little bit ago. Noticed my husband wasn't home and realized I could actually record an episode of the podcast. I don't know if those of you who also have podcasts or watch other podcasts can relate, but I can't record at all when Michael's home. It feels so awkward, even if he's in the other room with his giant headphones on. I don't know, I still feel like I have to whisper really quietly so that he doesn't know what I'm saying, even though he watches the podcast and we talk extensively about all of our knitting indentures. I don't know, it's a little quirk, but I kind of, just came home, and I think with the way the weather is changing, that this sweater is going to be kind of great. I really picture, I have a lot of dresses that have either a detail or a backless detail that I'll be able to throw this sweater over for the transitional days, those days where it's 50 or 60 or, even kind of sometimes a cool 70 in the morning when I'm leaving for work and you need a sweater, but then later in the day you might not. The combination of the bamboo and the yarn that keeps it a little bit cooler and that ventilation keyhole, also paired with the fact that I did 3/4 sleeves, I think will be a really good fit for me and for my wardrobe. So I'm really excited to get some wear out of this once I've made some more additional modifications. For things that I'm working on, I actually want to start with a little bit of spinning. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I had recorded a whole other episode before this one. And they started to listen to it, and they started to listen to me, and I just got so embarrassed because I felt like every other word out of my mouth was, and so, and to me, it just got, it wasn't even that it felt so embarrassing, I can't put that up, but it just felt like I was doing a disservice to you guys because it wasn't an episode filled with content, it was an episode filled with me making noises. And unless you're a really big fan of that, which you very well may be, I mean, different people enjoy different things in this world. Unless you're a really big fan of that, I didn't really think that that was the strongest content. So I decided to sit back down. Maybe I'm a little bit more calmed down now, or maybe the Diet Pepsi has kicked in. They are also not sponsoring this. Nerd Girl is not, and they are not. But I do want to talk about some spinning. I've always had a little bit of challenges with spinning. My first successful adventure with spinning was at the New York City Yarn Crawl this past fall. I had picked up a bat at Gauge and Tension. I still don't know why. It wasn't my colors. I'll show you something in a little bit that recently became acquired by me. It's not my colors. It's very similar colors to what I'll show you in a while. It wasn't that necessarily the colors or the fibers or any of that spoke to me, but I just had to have it. I had to try and spin it. Something about that spoke to me. My previous adventures in trying to spin, or drop spinning in particular, they all went pretty much the same in that I would pick up the spindle, I would go, I know what I'm doing, yeah, twirl. That's the noise of it falling on the floor. I'll try it again. Even quicker that time. That's funny. I think by that obnoxious noise, you guys can probably figure out what my drop spindle experiences were like up until that point. But not being able to successfully drop spindle did not keep me from purchasing spindle and spinner related paraphernalia. It was almost like a strange little drug problem. I loved buying fiber, but I didn't do anything with it. And so I had a lot of nice spindles at home. And this was actually one of the spindles that I had at home after the New York City yarn crawl last year. It is a Bosworth spindle. And I adore this thing. I adore this thing more than I will ever adore any of you. I'm just kidding. But, oh, I love this thing. I had purchased it at Rhinebeck. And it was probably the thing I was most excited about taking home that year, which again was strange because I couldn't use it. It was just a pretty piece of wood. When I saw Kristen of the Yarngasm podcast recently purchased her own, I just swooned not only over hers, but it reminded me of how much I loved my Bosworth. And I have another one actually, but I pulled up the very first one and it pulled up some fiber, and this was some nondescript wool that I got in some starter spinning pack. But as you guys can see, I tend to spin a pretty fine yarn. It's really, for me, it's a bit of a cathartic experience because I feel like I can pick it up and I can just kind of, twirl away at it. And something about either the rhythm of it or the feel of having true fiber in your hand and being able to do something with it, I don't really know, but obviously I picked up my spindle and I got a little bit done. It's not anywhere near as much as I would like. I think I'm waiting until my spinning wheel. I have two spinning wheels. I actually have an electric spinning wheel, an electric eel spinning wheel, and I have a Merlin's Tree Roadbug Hitchhiker spinning wheel. I'm waiting for some new bobbins for the latter, and I think once that comes in, I'll probably be all about the spinning for a little bit. Probably not all about the successful spinning because, again, but I'm pretty excited about that. Some acquisitions that I've gotten since the last time we talked, and I know we talked about in the very first episode. I don't really plan to acquire stuff, although I fully know that I will probably acquire things. My main acquiring zones are from various kind of repeating clubs that I'm a part of. And so this first skein is from my Nerd Girl Doctor Who club. This is the March colorway. So I'm just putting it out there in case, on the off chance you're in the club and you don't want to be spoiled and you haven't received your yarn yet. This is on the Bounce and Stomp base, which is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon base. And the colorway is called the Editor. It is something I fell in love with the very second I opened the package. So it's got, excuse the nagging cough, guys, I'm still trying to get over that cold. But it has all of these beautiful blues and blacks and little scotches of gray and little bits of kind of whites and blacks. And, oh, I think that picture kind of just shows the part of it I love the most. I don't know what it's going to be. I have no idea what it's going to be. I love variegated yarns, but I feel like a lot of the times you have to spend some time waiting to figure out what they want to be. I don't know what he wants. He hasn't really spoken to me yet. I know it's a he because I keep referring it to as a he, but beyond its gender, I don't really know much about it. It's beautiful. I can't wait to figure out what it wants to be, though. I was thinking at first maybe something like a hitchhiker, but it feels too special to be a hitchhiker. So if you guys have any suggestions or some tips or tricks, please do let me know, because I want to get this on my needles. I just don't know what yet. I also recently acquired this braid. Not so good with even the spinning terms, as you can see. But this braid of Nerd Girl fibers from my Fiber of the Month Club. This is a 100% Targhee wool. And the color is inspired by Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And this is called Curious Name for a Motor Car. And as I kind of said a couple of moments ago, these aren't my colors. They're actually really reminiscent of that bat that I purchased at Gauge Intention that kind of inspired my real love for knitting. But they're not my colors. And so, I don't know what this is going to be either. And I hate saying that. I hate kind of showing you guys stuff and being like, I don't really know. Because I feel like it's a bit of a cop-out. Why am I showing it to you if I don't have an intention for it or a purpose? But I'm thinking I'm open to ideas for this, because knowing it's not my colors, I know it's not something I'm going to be emotionally tied to if I spin it wrong or if I spin it differently than I potentially normally would. I was thinking about maybe trying to either fractal spin it or maybe even just kind of sectioning off and coming together the various colors that match each other. I don't really know. But like I said, if you guys have any ideas or can kind of point me towards some tips or tricks for spinning braids like that, I'd really appreciate it. To move on to kind of just general works in progress, after I finished my Mulberry Street pullover, I started working on an ease pullover, which is a pattern by Alicia Plummer. I'm using Nerd Girl yarns for this. This is in the colorway TI in her Progression Worsted base. That is a non-superwash 100% merino base. And the yard is just like 210 yards, 218 yards of skein, somewhere around there. I've worked on a couple of Alicia Plummer patterns before, and there are certain things about them that I really enjoy, and there are other elements about them that I find challenging because I don't necessarily agree with them, having knit as many sweaters as I have. And so one of the things I really like is that she has you start out, it's a top-down raglan. She has you start it by working the kind of the back of the neck flat before joining it in the round. You cast on some stitches here. I really like that. I really like the overall shape that gives to the raglan. It gives you some support at the back of the neck, which I really appreciate. I'm not a big fan of kind of like short row necks, so this really works for me. And as you can see, I've kind of gotten pretty significantly through this sweater. So I've worked the whole entire body, and I just started on the ribbing for my sleeve. And so the sleeve's just about done. This really was a quick knit. I know when people say that, sometimes it's kind of like, oh, well, it was a quick knit for you. But, and again, here I go with the butts again. But this was just stock knit in the round, and so I feel like it flew at times, and I feel like at other times it just dragged on. So to give you an idea of that, I started this sweater on Thursday on the bus ride to work. And I worked down, and between Thursday and Friday, this is how far I got on the body those 2 days. Between this marker and this next marker, that's how far I had gotten on Saturday. The rest of the body that you see kind of dangling here, that was all worked on Sunday, as well as a good chunk of the sleeve. I probably got him through a couple of repeats on it. I plan to do the full drawstring collar version of this, so that'll require about another 200 yards. I ended up not appointing, but approximating my skeins that the body took 3 skeins. The first skein gave out around here. the second skein around here. And the third one, I still have a little bit left on, so that finished out the rest of the body. Each sleeve will take me about one skein, and this is what I have left of the skein for the sleeve I'm currently working on. I have 2 more skeins, so I have 1 more sleeve and the collar, and so I should be fine to finish that. I'm pretty eager to finish it because I want to see how her shaping in this pattern works out. I feel like there's something more special to the ease than just making it like a basic sweater, so I followed all of her shaping. As you can see, I'm not 100% sure how I'll feel about that, but I'm excited to see it. So hopefully that'll be something I'll be able to share with you guys on the next episode. Something I didn't share with you guys last time or the time prior, because I know we had so much time together, I've shared everything with you, is my cozy memory blanket. And I've actually put a new square on it, so now's a pretty good time to show it to you. I know what you guys are thinking. Every podcaster has a cozy memories blanket. And that's kind of true in my case, I guess. I do. But I did start it because I had seen it on so many podcasts, and I just think it's a great idea. But unlike your normal podcast, I can't create a blanket. Oh, no. I'm apparently creating some form of funky little spaceship because... Do you see this? Do you see this funky little shape? It's like an augmented triangle, and it's got dangly danglies, and I don't know. I feel like I could make this into a hood if I really want to at this point. Just kind of fold it over like that, and it obviously hasn't gotten very far, but I really do love how a lot of these squares are knitting up. That one on the top there is Wool and Vine Yarns in your Outlander colorway. This skein right here is from my first pie shawl, which I love, and it's a Malabrigo sock. This skein over here is from Holiday Yarns. It's a sock that my husband had finished. It's one of his designs. So there's a lot to go on this. I've got to start filling in some of these gaps and making less haphazardous kind of shapes. But something I really enjoy is just kind of sitting down and pulling some minis and enjoying the experience. You guys are probably wondering right about now what I'm storing in the TARDIS cookie jar. Well, I don't really like cookies. I'm not a big sweets person. So instead of sweets, I love me some mini skeins. So what better to store in a TARDIS cookie jar than some mini skeins? But what I really love about the Cozy Memories blanket is it gives me an opportunity to use not only yarns I would never use, but colors I would never use. I hate the color pink. In the scale of colors, if I was ever like mayor of the world or something, there's a really good chance I would abolish the color pink. I hate it that much. But I have a couple of pink skeins in here, and they're all going to be beautiful in my Cozy Memories blanket. I love just sitting down, popping open the TARDIS, and pulling out some new skeins to work on. I think that's what makes the Cozy Memories blanket special. It's not that it's this, oh, every podcast does it. You need a Cozy Memories blanket. But it's kind of like a little bit of an experience. It's like the spinning on my spindle. It gives me something to do, yeah, but it gives me the experience of working on something that I know I'm going to be really proud of in the end. So I'm glad I had an opportunity to share that with you guys. I know I meant to last time, but it didn't work out. I don't know. Guys, I gotta say, this podcasting thing's a little bit harder than it looks like. There's a hodgepodge of disaster surrounding me. Here nor there. The last thing I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about today are some... Who's the podcast that says needle adjacent? I like that term. These are needle adjacent projects, and so these first 3 colors are going to look really familiar to you guys. Remember how last time we talked about how I cast on a Neon Beast? And remember how I talked about I was going to use these colors in my Neon Beast? And you see how there's some reskeined yarn here? You can probably figure out what happened to the Neon Beast, guys. It went bye-bye. Went the way of the dodo. I frogged it. Why did I frog it? So, I knit Eastern Combined So all of my stitches are through the back loop, both knit and purl. When I knit garter, sometimes it's not that attractive, and I felt like using a nice single yarn like this, I felt like it was giving me more of a mess than I bargained for, and I wasn't really into that look, so I frogged it. And now I don't know what it wants to be. Currently, I'm leaning towards making it into a 3-color cashmere shawl by Hoagie Locatelli. I know the Grocer girls are doing a knit along on that, and I feel like I'd want to participate in that, but I've had some issues with the 3-color cashmere cowl before. I cast it on in December in a beautiful yarn, and I worked on it, and I worked on it, and I worked on it, and I got miserable. I got really miserable with it. So I frogged it. And for those of you who aren't aware, the 3-color cashmere cowl is long. Not like the type of long like you'd wrap around your neck, but like I could put it on a giraffe and he'd be like kind of long. I just didn't understand it, I think, was part of the problem. So maybe the 3-color cashmere cowl shawl would be different. I understand shawls. I like shawls. I knit shawls. I wear shawls. It seems like a match made in heaven. But I don't know. Am I just being whiny or what? I feel like it would be a good fit, but at the same time, I feel like, would I still be holding on to that resentment from the 3-color cashmere cowl? Maybe. I am pretty spiteful like that. I could see myself doing it. So I don't know. If you guys have any recommendations for a 3-color shawl, see, there you go. See, it gets stuck in the head. Please feel free to put them in the Ravelry thread. I should have mentioned this approximately 27 minutes earlier, but we do have a Ravelry group for the podcast. It is the Creative Knit-Ensions group. You can also find me personally on Ravelry as well as Instagram as TNetPro. And let me for a minute talk about Elo. So I have a career that's based in internet stuff. We're going to go with that. Like social media. Elo annoys the dickens out of me because I feel really passionately that with social media, it's really important to not only know where your audience is if you're a brand trying to promote, but to know what kind of content your audience wants and where you can fit into that picture. And that's where a lot of brands fail because they're like, hey, buy my stuff. And you're like, I don't want any Coca-Cola. But my gripe with Elo is that I don't feel like as a brand, it's been proven. And I don't feel like as a brand, it does enough to engage with its users. The platform's really clunky. It only lets you search by hashtags. There's no Android app, so you're, straight off throwing away a big portion of your population. It's a wonderful potential alternative that it hasn't panned out yet. And maybe it's because I work in internet stuff. By the way, that's my official job title. Internet stuff person, yeah. Even though maybe it's that I work in that stuff, but I knew Instagram was going to change at some point, their algorithm, and tomorrow's the day that it, Instageddon occurs, and then it goes live, and we'll see what it actually does, but I don't know, I'm just not as concerned as most people, because I'm going to still flip through my feed. I'm still going to find the posts that I love, and they're all going to still be there. It's just in a different order, and that might annoy me, but so does when somebody posts the same picture of their kid 18 times in a row. Yes, that's my relative. That, of course, it's someone I'm related to. So I feel like I can insult them like that. I'm sorry, but. So that's my gripe with Elo. And the other gripe I have with Elo is every time I hear someone say Elo, all I can think about is, Elo, governor. And I say that for like the next 20 minutes after I've heard about Elo. We had a call about it the other day, and I'm sitting there on the call, and I'm going, Elo, governor. Elo. Do you know how unfocused your brain gets when you're doing that? Yeah. My last work progress to get this back to the craft knit thing, not my, internet professional stuffs. It's this skein, guys. This is a skein of Hawthorne Fingering by Knit Picks in their Cosmic Glacier colorway. And to me, this skein wants to be a pretty pair of pretty dandy socks. I saw them when Laura was knitting them on the Fun Knits podcast. I know Amber of the Yarn Junkie and Jacqueline of the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast are doing a knit along for that right now. And I want in. But there's one little problem. I'm officially, in addition to doing internet stuffs, I'm the world's loosest knitter. Yeah. So remember that E sweater that I showed you guys a little bit ago? I'm working it in this lovely worsted yarn, which is clearly a worsted. Because you can see that tail, you can see it up against my skin. That looks worsted E. The pattern calls for worsted weight yarn and a US 10 needle. I'm using a US 2. Maybe it's still a little loose. I have so much trouble knitting socks for that very reason. I can't ever be tight enough. I feel like there's a lot of information on the internet about how to knit looser or how to loosen up your knitting. But there's not a lot about how to knit tighter. I've tried switching to a different style. I'm a continental knitter. I've tried English. I've tried tensioning differently. I tried using bamboo or steel or, carbons or various different needle materials, and none of it works. So I'm reaching out to you guys. Can any of you help me knit a sock? And by sock, I mean something not 32 inches that fits my fat little feet. I mean a real sock. Like what this wants to be when it grows up. Help the yarn, guys. Help it. That's our PSA of the day. A little bit of administrative business before I kind of leave you guys for today. And I'll probably say, hello, governor, at the end, just so you know. In case you guys were missing it and you needed to hear it again. We're actually, or the Creative Knit-Ensions podcast is actually participating in the knitting games, inspired kind of by the Hunger Games. It is an event being put together by Brittany from the Sip and Stitch podcast and Melissa from the Spicy Homemaker podcast. Both of them are phenomenal podcasts that I highly recommend to really anyone. But every single month for the knitting games, there is a different challenge that podcasters can participate in. And when you participate in the little challenges, you can win for your group a prize pack for a giveaway. So you guys win in this too. Not only do you get to participate in the super awesome knitting games hosted by Melissa and Brittany, but you can win stuff. Win-win? Yeah. When the April challenge goes up, you'll be able to head over. There's the information in both of those groups, as well as in the Creative Knit-Ensions group, about where you can vote and stuff. But the April challenge itself is dyeing 4 mini skeins inspired by 2 characters from the Hunger Games. And I had a lot of fun with that. I used Kool-Aid. I live with someone who's experimenting with acid dyes, and I use Kool-Aid. Why'd I use Kool-Aid? Because there was blue. You know how rare it is to find blue Kool-Aid? Everything I've ever dyed, I've dyed with Kool-Aid because, by the way, I'm totally in a position to talk to you guys as a qualified indie dyer because I've played with Kool-Aid. Everything with Kool-Aid, I'm always dyeing things pink and pink and pink. You know why? Because there's purple and there's yellow and there's orange and there's red. And that's what you can find at any supermarket. Oh, there was blue. Blue Kool-Aid. Blue Kool-Aid's like hitting the mothership in the world of Kool-Aid. So I obviously bought we bought a lot of blue Kool-Aid. I can dye a lot of things blue for a really, really long time. Like the rest of my life, long time. But I'm not, that's not a spoiler or anything, guys. I actually, sadly, not all of my skeins are blue. So, when that all comes up, I encourage you guys to kind of vote. It can benefit you, it benefits the podcast, and it benefits really everyone, because it helps support this wonderful knitting community that we've got going on. And so continue supporting it, and maybe find out some great podcasts that you might not have heard of before. I guess that brings us to the end of our podcast, or as the Knitmore girls would say, this is to the end of our row. Or in my case, this is the second time we're getting to the end of our row. Shazam! I'm still Danya, and I'm still coming to you from New York. And I thank you guys for joining us today. As I mentioned before, but all too late in the podcast, you can find us on Ravelry in the Creative Knit-Ensions group. You can find me personally as T-Knit-Pearl on Instagram and Ravelry. And I look forward to coming to you guys in another couple of weeks and showing you what I'm working on. Hopefully there'll be something more substantial. And guys, hey, maybe there'll be some quilting. I'm actually working on a top right now, but it's basted down. So it might be more exciting next time. Stay tuned.